working on a 16 by 20 canvas today. I primed it once with acrylic gesso. I let it dry, and I've got my number 50 filbert blending brush here. I've got some black and white, and I'm gonna start the underpainting and the main part of this painting in black and white. I'm gonna make different tones, light gray, dark gray, mid-tones, and then we're gonna come in with a bright, colorful tree in the center. I haven't decided as of yet what color it's gonna be. It might be purple, red, or blue, bright cobalt blue. So I'll kind of think about that as I'm working along here. But I'm just gonna get my brush a little bit wet first, and I'm gonna take some white, little bit of black, more white than black, and I'm just gonna go up and down. Just long brush strokes. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more black this time. Dunk my brush in the water. I want this to be semi-abstract and very loose feeling. Because we're going to have a real dramatic, exaggerated feeling to these buildings, that's why I'm doing these long sweeping brush strokes. And not over blending. I want there to be different tones of gray going on, and white and black. Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit more water on my brush and white, and then I'm gonna start bringing it down a little bit lower and then pulling across. This will be the road. And then I'll pull across this way. To get that feeling of windows. So it's a real simple up and down few brush strokes that all we're doing right now is just that. Don't think about anything else. Take some more white. I'm going to switch over to a flat brush now. This one is a number 10. I'm going to get it a little bit wet, and I'm going to take some white and some black. And I'm going to start adding some lines in here, the full width of the brush for the buildings, on an angle. This will give us more of a dramatic perspective. So we're not going to see the top of this one. Can pull a line on an angle like that and just keep making smaller ones. I'm lining my brush up like that. So you can constantly layer as many times as you want, go over top with the existing one. I'm gonna make it a little bit faded down here at the bottom. I'll kind of just start off at the top with the most paint. I don't want to do too much though, because I don't want to lose that impressionistic feeling. Then we're going to come out right about here and start pulling on an angle to create that perspective. And then white. And then just pull your brush in all directions, making that a little bit blurrier. We'll add a little bit more black here. Make this edgier here. I'm purposely making this uneven. I don't want to have it right down the middle. I want to create more of an interesting abstract perspective with this. Just with a little bit of water. I'm just going to pull and sweep a little bit of the paint. I'm kind of pulling off on the edge of the sidewalk there, and then going kind of creating a little arch. So I'm not pulling straight, I'm kind of going up a little bit. Just to cast a few little shadows. I'm going to add a little bit of white. And because it's on an angle, see how I've loaded my brush? I'm going to tap it out just to kind of separate a little bit. This will make it look like all the windows, all those little windows that you get in these high-rise buildings. And then I want to kind of just blur that up a little bit after I add it. So tap, tap, tap. You can do this quite quickly. Just have fun with it. Just don't hesitate. The idea is to keep it looking impressionistic. We're not out for a realistic looking cityscape here. You could also do a few little taps diagonally like that. Maybe there's some balconies. You can also just use the corner of your brush if you want. And then there's another brush I want to show you guys how to use to create the way a building will look. Skyscrapers will look like they have a grid on it. So this is a rake brush, even tail fan. It's a number 2. And this is by Artist Loft. So I'm just gonna get a bunch of water on my brush and then white paint. And well, let's do this one over here. So I'm just gonna line my brush up, pull, 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 and then pull. See how easy that is? I'll do a little bit over here. And you could also go back in with some black and add a little bit more. And then turn your brush this way if you want to create a shadow. A little bit more of a break in between some of those. I'm going to take the flat brush now. It's clean and I just want to start getting this looser feeling back. I wanted to show you guys a few different techniques though. So some parts of the painting you might want to have a little bit more in focus, and then other parts you'll want to have a lot more blurriness going on, because it really is what you need to create that moodiness and vibe to a painting. And at any time, see how I just keep going over? You can go over and create more of a layered buildings and city look. You could also go in like this with some white and do little windows like this, just blocking in. And I'm going to kind of make some skinnier looking ones here. This will add even more perspective. So every time I do this, I'm going to go down, lower and lower. Take some more white, kind of just bring back some light right in here. So I'm going in both directions with my brush, side to side and then across. And come in with a little bit of black again. Push, and then start to turn my brush to make it narrower. There, we'll have that line up right there, and then we'll start coming in with our tree. I'll bring a little bit more gray along this side. Like I want this to be a little bit blurrier. I'm just taking off a little bit of paint there, exposing the canvas underneath. Okay, so for my tree, I'm going to start my tree trunk with one of my little filbert brushes. And I'm going to do some black first. And the idea is that there's so much building and concrete here, and where's the life? Where's the nature? So I want to just have an impact right here and just put a slab of tree right there in the middle, in your face. And I guess I'll just start maybe kind of off to the side a little bit because I don't want to block this pretty light that we have going on in that neat perspective. So I'll start a tree right about here. And I'll even have the tree roots kind of pulling and twisting around with my brush. A little bit of white in there, water on my brush too. Up and feel loose and free with your brush. Get more of an expressive feel that way. Let's take a little bit more of that black. I've got another branch over here. So where I want my thicker tree trunk to be, I'll push and use the full width of the brush. Where I want my branches to be a little bit thinner, so I'm just using the tip and just grazing the canvas. And then adding a few little branches off of the other existing branches that are a little bit bigger to start. You just add these little baby ones onto those. And I'm going to come in with more black so that this really is kind of the focal point. You get a real nice contrast going on. And this is a number 8 filbert. I think I forgot to mention that. Have a look down below the video in the description as well if you missed the sizes and the colors that I'm using. Okay, now I've got one of my oval mop brushes. This is by Princeton, and I believe it's a 1 inch. I'm going to take gray, make that with a little bit of black and white like we did before. A little bit more black first. Okay, and then I'm going to start tapping. And for some lush looking foliage, bringing some life to this dark and gloomy, closed off city or street. Let's go ahead, why not, and add a little bit of grass down in here. Okay, now it's time to come in with our color. Okay, so for this tree, I'm going to use a couple of colors. I'm going to use phthalo blue, and I'm going to use some purple or violet. Okay, so I've got another oval brush here. This one's clean and dry, a 1 inch again. And if you guys are wondering, this is by the Princeton series. It's a really nice brand. If you're wondering, I got this at Michael's in Canada. Okay, so I'm going to start with purple. Take a little bit of white and I'll start on this side. Tap over top. Over top of that black and gray. We need that for that base though, because this is going to dry darker. I'm going to go right in to my blue, grab a little bit of white, and I'm going to start overlapping. I'll start here so it kind of gradiates from one color to the, or transitions from one color to the next. I'm going to take a little bit more white. And a few lighter areas here, softer in tone. And I'll take some white and blend the two colors together. And add that right about here. I'm not applying a lot of pressure. Okay, I just wiped the excess paint off on a towel rather than putting in the water to wash it out, because then I would really lose the shape. So now I'm going to go into my turquoise. And I'm going to start right about here. And I'm just going to start kind of on halfway on top of the gray and then a little bit above. So I'm working my way up towards that blue. I go right in here, and this works really, really well if your paint is still wet, the blue, because then you'll really get that blended and perfect looking transition happening. I'm gonna take a little bit more of my turquoise and just add a few little areas here over top of more of the blue. Okay, I'm gonna follow down below the same colors that coincide with where the color is on the tree. And before I go and add my blue and purple, I'm gonna add a lighter shade of turquoise just by taking some white. And I'll just add a little minty colored highlight here on top. And then a little bit down here below as well. Okay, now I'll go into my blue and start adding a little bit in here. Have it sort of start to transition just a little bit. I'm gonna get all that purple on the tip of my brush there. And I'll start right here, putting that pure purple there, and then as I push a little bit more, it's going to release the blue out of my brush, and then we'll get the transition. So maybe a little bit more of the turquoise here, a little bit more depth, and take a little bit more of that white with the blue. I think that looks really pretty. Let's do a little bit of turquoise here. Now if you want to have some more branches showing, you could come back in. I've just got a liner brush here. Any liner brush will work. A little bit of black. Okay, so I'm going to call this one done. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and can't wait to see your versions of this in the Facebook group. So I'll see you guys next time. Happy painting. Bye.